Welcome in, along with Eric Eager. I'm Steve Palazzolo. Today discussing the best teams or the best opportunity to maybe win the Super Bowl out of projected wildcard teams. We already know teams that have a bye have a much better chance to make the Super Bowl. They play one fewer game. They're generally better teams. But we've run the numbers, Eric, and let's take a look at the teams that are probably going to play in the wildcard team. Who has the best chance of actually running the table and winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah, and we've doubted them before this season, but the Chicago Bears, provided they end up as a wild card, actually have the best chance to win the Super Bowl. We have them about 4.4%, just a little bit higher than the Los Angeles Chargers. And as we talked about yesterday on this channel, it's because the Chicago Bears have the best defense in the NFL, an improving quarterback position in Mitch Trubisky, and a very good offensive mind in Matt Nagy.
Well, Bears fans have been so angry at us for not giving them proper credit. And just for perspective's sake, all the teams that are getting a bye, they're all in the double digits, essentially, as far as win probability goes because of that first-round bye. Is that right?
Yeah, so for example, the Bears, in order to even get to a round 2 game, probably have to beat the Vikings at home. That's not a short task at all. Even if you put that at 60 or 70%, as we probably would, it's not the full 100% that the Chiefs and the New Orleans Saints
Rams,
and those types of teams are going to have. So in that perspective, it's just harder for these teams. So for example, the Los Angeles Chargers, if they were to get a first-round bye and get the 1 seed in the AFC, their chance of winning the Super Bowl is substantially higher, probably triples relative to where it is now at 4%. And that's just because, again, you get a for sure win, you get home field advantage. Home field advantage flips win probability for 2 average teams, 14 percentage points. So it's not trivial at all. And so that's why all these teams are dark horses, but the ones that we like the most are the Bears and the Chargers.
Bears and the Chargers. And the interesting one to me after that is the Pittsburgh Steelers above the Baltimore Ravens, even though the Baltimore Ravens control their own destiny this weekend. And if they win, they are for sure winning the AFC North. The Steelers have a higher win probability because we have them ranked as a higher team, and they actually have a better chance of running the table.
Yeah, so this is conditioned on making the playoffs. So obviously Pittsburgh has a lower chance of winning the Super Bowl than Baltimore, all told. But if they were to make the playoffs, they would have a higher probability of winning the Super Bowl. And I think you can convince yourself as to why. If they were to make the playoffs, they would be the AFC North champion. They would have one home game. They would go into the playoffs with one of the best quarterbacks, I think, of his generation in Ben Roethlisberger, an improving defense, versus Baltimore, which has a very good defense, but offensively, it's still a question mark as to whether that offense will carry itself through January.
Future Hall of Famer, Ben Roethlisberger. Sorry, Cam Jordan, he is going to be in.
I think so, too.
The other notable one for me, I think, the Houston Texans being tied with the Seattle Seahawks. The Texans are a team we, even before the season, we said, look, well, right now, they're not as good as their record shows. There's a lot of nice things. They've certainly overachieved compared to where we thought they were going to be, but maybe still some doubt, even though they're still technically in the mix for that bye in the first round.
Yeah, I think both of these teams are very similar in that their quarterback deals with a decent amount of pressure, handles it very well. Their defense has looked good basically by the final scores in a lot of games, but metrically they're giving up some plays on early downs. They're not quite as strong. Houston had some injuries in the secondary last week, caused them to lose to Philadelphia. So both teams are really carried by a quarterback. Houston has the advantage of having one of the best players in the NFL in DeAndre Hopkins catching passes, but their offensive line is weaker than Seattle. So I think all told, it's probably a wash.
And then the Philadelphia Eagles rounded out at 2.7%. They're still a scary team, the Super Bowl champs, but I don't think the model is going to project, a 4-game Super Bowl run from Nick Foles. Like, how improbable would that be?
Yeah, I mean, and then this, again, is conditional on making the playoffs. They still have, a lower than average chance of making the playoffs, but if they get in, they have a lot of the ingredients here. They have a very good pass rush. They have, I think, coverage that if these players stay healthy for a little bit will be good enough, and they have a quarterback and a coach that have together, been able to, sustain long runs in the playoffs. We saw it a season ago. So even though their path will be tough, they're among like the Minnesotas of the world. They're probably a better bet.
So there you have it. It's the teams with the best opportunity to run the table if they make it to the playoffs as wildcard teams.